Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Legacy Farmer, the podcast. This is your host, J.C. Young, and today's topic and discussion is going to be around the relaunch of Legacy Farmer. Now, guys, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while or watching videos on YouTube or checking out Facebook posts or anything of those things, you've probably noticed a lot of repeat content. Well, it's just simply because that's what you've gotten, right? That's what you've gotten. In the past 2.5 years now, we've brought in more than 250 members into Legacy Farmer. And that's just honestly where my focus has been. I have not had time or capacity to be doing and broadcasting a bunch of new content. We've been going to work on the business. We've been going to work with our members. We've been going to work into making sure that the members that are coming into our program are getting the exact results they want. And we've learned a lot of valuable lessons across the board going through and discussing all of the problems and the challenges. And guys, it's just been so mind-boggling to me how many different problems and challenges everybody is facing, right? It's also been great for me too, growing up in small town Western Kansas, to just see how different the operations are. We have members from California clear up to Delaware, from a 1,000-acre farm up to a 15,000-acre farm operation, just all across the board. And what's crazy is all the operations are different in some capacity, but what's not different is the problems. What's not different is not knowing where we're at financially. What's not different is knowing how to handle the conversations with your banker and actually take back leverage and power and control over that conversation. What's not different is knowing what number to present, for example, to get your interest rate dropped by 1.5%, 2%. What's not different is handling hard conversations with your family or working with family in the farm operation or trying to figure out how am I going to pass this operation on to my kids and not make sure my kids don't fight over and end up suing each other over it. What's not different are the problems. Again, this is across personal and business life. And this is just the stuff that we've really went to work on. I've had to go to work on these systems and processes inside of our team to lead our members from A to Z, right? The results that they want when they come in. I want to make sure that we're doing everything in our capacity to make sure that we get them there. And again, the problems are across all the personal problems and the stories that go on in a person's head, to marriage, to body, and then leads us over to all the business problems and ultimately build an operation that's sustainable. Now we can leave to the next generation. And that's just what we've been going to work on, guys. And, relaunching this podcast, it's just going to be different than what you've heard in the past. When I first started Legacy Farm with the podcast, I didn't have the experience that I do now. I definitely didn't have the perspective that I do now because of all the members coming in. That's over, we're approaching 300 members now, and that's 300 people's stories that we've heard, 300 people's problems and challenges that they've went through. And the biggest lessons learned from those are the problems that they're facing and ultimately the mistakes that they've made in the past. That's just what makes our group and our network so powerful, because inside of it, we're talking so much about what everybody else refuses to talk about inside of this industry. And again, the more and more people we get into it, the more and more it solidifies my belief in that there's so many problems in this industry that a majority of people they're unwilling to face, or they don't know how to face them, or they don't feel like they can face them. There's just a lot of different things that are going on, and people need an outlet. People need a place to come and get guidance on those things, and not just get guidance from me. Legacy Farmer, in the beginning, it was just me, but I've made it very clear to everybody that Legacy Farmer is a network. Legacy Farmer is a community. Legacy Farmer is a group of people on a mission to solve the problems that most are unwilling to face and to ultimately leave something better for the next generation. This is not the Jace Show. This is Legacy Farmer. We are a family here. And what's crazy and what I love about what it's become is every time we add a new member, we're adding 5 to 10 new members a month to our network. And we're going to work on the business challenges, overall estate planning, going over business organization and structure, going over marriage problems and challenges there, working with your team and running your team members around, raising kids, just everything across the board. There's nothing that we don't talk about typically inside of Legacy Farmer. But it's just been great for me to just have a different perspective and really get honed in on what really matters, because a lot of us, we're just so focused on the wrong things. And that's what we notice with a lot of members when they first come in. They're coming in because their mind is all over the place, that they don't know where to focus. They don't know. They have all these problems across the board, don't know how to get them fixed or solved or anything, and they're sick of not being able to sleep at night. So my perspective over the past 3 years of running Legacy Farmer has completely changed, and it will continue to grow and continue to expand. So the reason I'm sharing all this, my friends, is because with the relaunch of this podcast and the new content that you're going to be getting, you're going to be hearing it from a different Jace. If you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, you've heard a lot of episodes where I've shared a little bit about members, and but I've also shared some of the more motivational type of stuff to take action and do things that make you uncomfortable, and ultimately get to that end result that you desire to have. And in order to do that, there's a lot of walls you got to walk through, right? And it's hard to do that sometimes, but going forward inside of this podcast, you're going to have some of that, but I'm going to be sharing a lot of member stories. And it's inside of these member stories that you are going to deeply connect with the problems, the challenges that they are facing across business and personal life. Okay, across business and personal life. We all want to build a successful business. We all want to build a successful operation. But if we sacrifice our family the entire time and we die the richest man in the graveyard, but we're completely alone and nobody shows up at our funeral, then what are we really doing here? Right? What are we really doing? Are we doing what God intended us to do? And the answer is no. We gotta have both sides. And that's why inside of Legacy Farmer, we don't just focus on the business stuff. Yes, the business stuff is important, but it's the personal side of things that really drive the business forward. Because again, you can build the biggest business you want if you don't have the family there to support you, because you've turned into an a-hole who's only focused on business your entire life, and you haven't focused on your marriage or your kids or your body, or your connection to God or whatever spirit is that you believe in. Then you just can't. You're not going to get the results that you want. You're going to feel lost in a lot of ways. And a lot of days you're going to wonder, what the heck am I doing all this for? And that's just, I'm not saying that from my own personal experience. Yes, that is my personal experience, but it's also the experience of all of our members inside of Legacy Farmer. So again, these stories that I'm telling you, they're going to be about specific members facing a specific problem, either in business or family, that they had to come into Legacy Farmer and ultimately help them get solved. And what's just so great about our network, my friends, is with this many members in here now, when I say that we're a family, I truly mean that. Like, the amount of people that show up on our weekly boardroom calls, for example, and showing up on Zoom, we have anywhere from 30 to 50 members on our calls every week. And everybody's catching the recordings as well. What's crazy is how much each member is willing to help one another, right? Somebody comes to one of those calls with a problem or an issue or a challenge. It's not just Jace giving them feedback. Yes, I will help them work through some of it, but what's really powerful is because whatever problem this person is facing, I can guarantee you with absolute certainty there's somebody on the call that's already been through it. And again, the fastest way to success is not make dumb mistakes that ultimately set you back. And that is what has turned out to be just so valuable, is everybody inside of our network is willing to share the real stuff, the real problems. And I'm talking about the mistakes that have cost some of them $100,000, $300,000, $500,000, some of them over $1 million in their career. And if they could go back and change certain things, they definitely would. And that's the type of valuable information they're sharing as well. And so again, I reiterate, this has become so much more than just Jace. Yes, I started this, but man, God had a different plan, and he has turned this thing into an amazing group of people. And I'm so grateful for it. I feel so blessed that Legacy Farmer has become what it is. And I feel even more grateful because now I have so much more experience in working with a lot of these family farm operations and these individuals that I can now give back even more to you. And again, the stories I share with you, they're not just made up stories. These are real people going through real problems or real challenges, trying to overcome the hard things inside of their life or their operation. And they're looking for a place to turn to. And fortunately, they stepped into Legacy Farmer. Everything worked out great. They got the problem solved, and ultimately they're moving forward. But I'm going to share those stories because I can guarantee you with absolute certainty, you will connect with some of those members and the problems or challenges that they're going through. So my friends, that concludes this episode. So just so you know, going forward, those are the type of things that we're going to be discussing. And hopefully I'll be able to be fortunate enough to bring on some members to actually do some interviews with me, or not even just interviews, but just discussions with me and share their experience. Maybe you'll connect with it and, change kind of the dynamic a little bit of this podcast compared to what it's been in the past, where it's just been Jay speaking. I'd love to get some guest speakers on here and really talk and have those open, honest, just real and raw discussions for all of you to consume and benefit from. So my friends, thank you again for joining me, and we will catch you on the next episode of Legacy Farmer the Podcast.